everyone. Let's get this started. This is chapter 3 of The Body of Christopher Creed. There we go. Alex and Ryan came from church with me, and we hung out in my basement, waiting for the Kyles to show up for practice. My dad had stopped at Wawa and gotten a bunch of shorties, that's a 6-inch hoagie, and we were mowing down on them in silence. Ryan sat at his drum set. He would take a huge bite off the hoagie, put it down on my amp, pick up his drumsticks, and go, ba-ba-dee, ba-ba-dee-bay, boo-bam boost, ending with the cymbal. It grated on my nerves. With one huge mouthful, he got up, then crouched and tiptoed toward the game closet. He grabbed the knob and jumped back as the door flew open. He stared at the games and then turned to us, swallowing the food. He's not in there. He cracked up and then looked miffed as I rolled my eyes. Ryan's dad was chief of police. Sometimes I wondered if he hadn't heard too much gore from his dad, which left him kind of heartless. Dudes, he went on, aren't you scared he's going to, show up hanging by the neck on your property? Or you're going to open the laundry chute and watch him spill out all bloody with a bullet through his brain? He did it somewhere. Somebody's going to find the spoil. My dad says something about very sensitive people committing suicide in water, Alex put in. His dad was a shrink. You watch. Next spring, sometime, somebody's going to go to whip back the tarp on their swimming pool, clear away the brown water, and see Creed with a cinder block roped around his chest, his eyeballs totally rotted through. I think he jumped off the dam. That's why nobody can find the body. It hasn't bloated up, risen to the surface yet, Brian said enthusiastically. He made some laugh that went hick, hick. Half of me wanted to laugh because it made the whole thing seem less mind-blowing. But the other half couldn't get rid of this thought that a kid I knew might have slashed his wrists or hung himself. It was making me want to call my girlfriend Leandra and tune these dudes out. Leandra went to a holy roller church, which could be a pain because she could go off about things like the devil being real and stuff that could make you twitch. But I knew in this case she'd go on about kids who died, going up to heaven, and how Creed was probably very happy if he had died. I kept getting this picture in my head of Creed in the 6th grade, the only time I truly wailed on him. I had only hit about 3 kids in my whole life, so I remembered it. He stared at me right after. Then blood came gushing from both his nostrils like 2 spigots. I kept reliving those seconds between him looking so unglued and that blood gushing. I kept wondering if he felt pain. I wonder if I'd left him wishing he were dead. I've got it, Ryan leaned forward enthusiastically. He hung himself in the woods, and all those searchers were so busy looking on the ground that they never bothered to look up. Oh my God, his Converses were probably dangling 6 inches above one of those searchers' heads, and they just never bothered to look up. Yo, we're eating here, I reminded them. You guys ever hit him? Yeah, once, Alex said. Yeah, Ryan muttered. He'd probably lost count. I think 4th grade was the big year for me. I remember noticing in 4th grade that Creed still sucked his thumb if he wasn't thinking of where he was. We used to catch him doing that, then torture the guy until he cried. It got to be a game with some of us, to see if we could make him cry. Hey, maybe getting hit all the time that year knocked his brain sideways. I think that's what started it. You're wrong, Alex said, staring at his half-eaten hoagie. I hit him in the 2nd grade. He was on people's nerves even back then. I brought my Matchbox cars into school. Remember how I had 200 of them? All in the compartmentalized boxes? We grinned and I rolled my eyes, remembering all those cars. Alex used to line them up in the compartments by make and model. I remember feeling like king popularity that day, doling out cars to all my little race car fans. We were going to make this huge track around the blacktop at recess. Creed kept standing there going, there's lead poisoning in those cars. What you're doing is dangerous. You should really seek a more winsome pastime. I remember he used that word, winsome. God, we got 5 minutes into this broken record routine and I just nailed him. Alex shrugged like it was the only acceptable thing to do. The sort of thing was always going on around Creed. I hit him in the 6th grade, I told them, feeling some sort of relief at finally letting fly. I had brought my new guitar to school. After gym, I walked into class, and he was standing on a desk doing his Elvis routine with it. I saw the desk and started to rock under his sneakers. I took the guitar calmly, put it in the case, turned around, and just pounded him. I looked from Ryan to Alex, mowing down on the hoagies around these stupid Snickers, and I felt a little pissed off. Maybe we could talk about laughing about it, I suggested. I think we tortured the guy enough when he was alive, if he's actually alive. Dude, you're like a walking conscience, Ryan cackled. Don't be so glum. Maybe he just ran away. Truth is, can you even see Creed doing something like sticking a gun in his head or knocking a stool out from under himself? He was obnoxious, but such a wimp. It makes for a much more boring story, but maybe he just ran off. But damn, wouldn't you just love to know what the note said? Of course, Alex and I both mumbled. Everyone and their brother was dying to know what all Chris had written, so that you couldn't tell whether it was a runaway note or a suicide note. Ryan got to laughing harder. Who but Creed would send a suicide email? A suicide email! He was cracking up so much he didn't notice that Alex wasn't. Duh, idiots. Did you ever stop to think? If it was an email, we can probably get at the thing. As Alex plopped down in front of my terminal and turned it on, Ryan and I automatically sucked up behind him. Alex was one of those brainiacs you could almost mistake for stupid, because he was also a class clown type. He had been fooling around with the school computer since the beginning of freshman year, and regularly read us our grades 3 days before report cards came out. I watched him click on a program called Reachover, which he had installed for me, but I had never used. He said it hooked into the library files, and since only gleeps and nerds actually spent more than 15 minutes in the library, I could sit here at home, access the library's online encyclopedias, and do my papers without hauling my can in there. I could still get A's without appearing socially inept, he said. I hadn't thought much about this program because for Christmas I had gotten 2 different encyclopedias on CD-ROM, one from each grandmom. Does the library know you're hooked into them? I asked. No way. I installed the thing with Mrs. Peacock putting books on the shelves not 10 feet away from me, but she wouldn't know an installation from an assassination. Ooh, I hear the pitter-patter of connectoids. The modem was ringing and shrieking. Ryan had quit laughing. Dude, you really think you can get at that note? If he said it from the library, it might still be in the library's outbox. Ah, Library Windows Explorer. How do you do? I recognized the sight of the Explorer and smiled with my jaw half hanging. Ryan and I watched Alex scan down to the Indora file, complaining all the while that the school should get a security system. He clicked in out.tok and scanned down a list of dates and times. His eyes lost their Funsville look and he sighed. There's nothing here from Thursday at all. We're sure this note was sent from the library? My dad said the library. Ryan nodded hard. In fact, my mom asked why a kid would send an email like that from a public place. Creed had a humongous computer system at home, but my dad said, nope, the return address said the library. Ain't a retentive moron. He probably sent it from a disk. Alex mumbled, let me check the recipient. Even Ryan kind of gasped as Alex clicked all the way out to network and moved easily down another passage that showed the last names of teachers next to these little file icons. Right at the top was Ames, the principal. Alex clicked in there, and I crunched my head into Ryan's shoulder, casting a glance up the stairs to make sure my dad wasn't coming. Not like he would have any clue what we were doing, even if he saw it with his own eyes. Here, Alex virtually marched into the principal's office, opening his file drawer and rooting through it. Yet if some parent came down here, all we would have to do was act normal and make up some lie. Online stuff was awesome in my mind, though I wasn't Alex the master. Ah, a smorgasbord of emails, Alex noted. Shall we set ourselves to discover if our illustrious principal is having an online affair, or something of a darker nature? Dirty emails from Mr. Ames. Oh my God, Ryan cackled. Would that be the end of the universe? Forget it. My dad has been playing racquetball with him twice a week for 10 years. I said, no friend of my parents is a pervert. It's physiologically impossible. Ryan seemed to buy that. My dad owns an engineering firm, and my mother is a prosecutor for the district attorney's office. Throughout my life, the words had floated around me from people in church or other parents in Little League. I had the perfect parents. I just sort of believed it. And that makes you automatically think their friends are perfect too. Alex's dad was a shrink and his mom was a housewife. Ryan's dad was the local chief of police and his mom used to be a systems analyst until Earl, Ryan's older brother, came along. Earl was always in trouble. So much trouble he made Ryan and his sister Renee look like angels, which they weren't. Mrs. Bowen decided to be a full-time mom eons ago, or, in the case of the Bowen kids, a full-time enforcer. I jumped as my printer started to haul a sheet of paper through. I looked from its blinking lights to Alex, who was grinning with electric eyes. I should leave Mr. Ames a reprimand for cleaning out the library file, but saving his recipient's copy as a souvenir reminder of better days. I hadn't even seen the note come up on the screen, but Alex's brain worked like 10 times faster than mine. He reached for the paper and turned to face us. Dear Mr. Ames, he read, and I watched his face drop, the victorious look. I have a problem getting along with people. I know that people wish I were dead, and at this moment in time, I see no alternative but to accommodate them in this wish. I have a wish. Not that anybody cares, but if anybody cared over the years, it was you. Here is my wish. I wish that I had been born somebody else. Alex started reading the names of a couple of kids I played football with, a couple he played basketball with. Mike Healy, Jose DeSantos, Tommy Ide, Evan Lucenti, then Tori Adams, Alex Arrington. My heart jumped and left my chest on fire as I heard my own name come out of this note. With Alex's, it went on to name a few other guys we hung with because of sports, but our names were in there. I listened in a haze as Alex read the rest. I don't understand why I get nothing and these boys get everything. Athletic ability, good personalities, beautiful girlfriends. I'm sure their parents will be buying them cars next year. I will still be riding my bicycle until my parents decide I'm old enough. Quite possibly, I'll be 25. I wish to understand life and luck and liberty, but I will never do that confined to this life. The personality defects I've been cursed with, the lack of abilities, the strain. I wish no malice on anyone. I only wish to be gone. Therefore, I am. Yours respectfully, Christopher Creed. Ryan's voice was echoing some bull. The kid's about to end it, and he's still talking like he wants to impress someone with his enormous vocabulary. And he mentions you guys, but doesn't mention me? Doesn't he think I'm lucky? You guys, he actually spell-checked his suicide note. Alex laughed in amusement. He might have gotten malice right, but he would not have gotten accommodate. Give me that. I snatched the sheet of paper from Alex, completely sick of all their jokes. I think my life changed as the words in that note bounced around my head. I might have felt a little weird before over something so unusual happening, but I hadn't been involved personally. Creed involved me. He used my name. He all but admitted he might kill himself because he wasn't me. And he had been so damn honest. I have a problem getting along with people. I know that people wish I were dead. I'm not sure how many people would actually want Creed dead, but still, if he heard, "Why don't you drop dead?" once, he probably heard it 1,000 times. I wanted to be pissed at someone. I just didn't know who. Chris sounded pissed at his parents. Creed's mother was a retired naval officer who used to fly jets before she made a drill school for her own kids as a stay-at-home mom. Mr. Creed taught archaeology out of Stockton State College and had inherited a lot of money from his mom or something. They lived in a big house, like 2 cul-de-sacs over, had a big car and a van, and they had bought Chris a great Pentium 23 gig with surround sound. I guessed a great computer system like that couldn't replace friends. I kind of wanted to blame the parents. They had to be part of this creating a weirdo process. But I also wondered why none of us ever picked up that Creed was so down on himself. Whatever it was that he admired me for, I figured I could have helped him. I would have, if he had just let us know he was thinking of offing himself. That made me pissed at him. Dudes, he mentions our names. I looked at Alex, who was nudging Ryan to stifle it and show some respect. Calm down, Tori. Alex had quit laughing, but he gave me the timeout sign. Alex, we're not the Pittsburgh Steelers, okay? The guy is making a mountain out of a molehill. We have a normal life, and the only thing we have that he didn't is friends. I wanted to say that was a big deal in his mind, obviously. You could have been more chill toward the guy." Ryan started chuckling again. I got this feeling in my gut that most people would miss the fact that Chris felt he had reason to do this. Even his own fool parents weren't being understanding toward the guy. If they really wanted to understand their kid, they would not have been standing in front of a church full of people going, "Doyi, we're here to tell you that Chris was grounded in reality." Ryan went on happily. "The operative question to me is, what did the guy do? I just want to know, is he alive or is he dead? If he's alive, how did that little prick find the nerve to leave home? And if he's dead, where's the body?" I said something like "bite me" under my breath, but not loud enough for them to hear. And that was the end of chapter 3. Thanks for listening.